Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. And with that being said, it is currently 3:39 p.m. And of course, today's date is the 15th of May 2025. All right, we're back like clockwork, ladies and gentlemen. So Trump, of course, we know is in the Middle East, okay, making deals, trying to broker peace deals, okay, trying to bring uh Syria into the Abrams ports. Hopefully it gets done. Most likely it's going to get done because he's been in the Middle East for like 3 days now. And that should count for something. They're signing deals, investment deals. A lot has been going on. So we're going to check out the updates. Okay. So enjoy the show. Here we go.
President Trump is in Qatar amid growing scrutiny over his plan to accept a luxury plane from that country. He's suggesting Qatar approached him with a jet offer. Listen.
So they said to me, we would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things, and we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going. And I said, well, that's nice. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift?
Trump's plan to accept the plane raises legal and ethical questions, and there is also bipartisan concern over possible security issues, including what Congressman Jeff Hurd told me just last hour.
I have serious concerns with this so-called gift from the government of Qatar. Security concerns, ethical concerns using this used airplane.
To think that Air Force One, where the president is asked to function as our commander-in-chief in a situation room, making life or death decisions, is on a plane given to us by a foreign government with 200 miles of wiring in it, is an indication to me of complete recklessness on the part of the president.
CNN correspondent Tom.
But the truth is, what about the Statue of Liberty? That was a gift from France. All right, that was a gift from France. So why is this a big deal? Somebody tell me in the chat. Maybe I don't know. Can you tell me in the chat? Because we all know the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. So tell me, was that a Trojan horse? Because that's what they're saying for this 747 Boeing that the Middle East, well, Qatar is giving the Defense Department of the United States. It's not to Trump, it is to the Defense Department. But let's keep going.
Foreman is here to break down what it would take to overhaul the jet so that it could be used by the U.S. government. And it's not cheap, Tom.
No, it's not. And the short answer is it would take a lot. Let's look at the capabilities of this unique plane, maybe the most unique aircraft in this country. Look, it has to have highly secure communication systems that nobody can hack into, nobody can read. It needs to have defensive systems to avoid missiles that might be fired at it or any other kind of weapons. The ability to shield against electromagnetic pulse. What that means is every wire in this plane has to be shielded in such a way that it can't be taken out from without. And the capability to refuel in flight. Remember, George W. Bush operated from this plane on 9/11 because that's what you do to make sure you have a safe command center in the sky. Doing all of that on a plane of any sort, but particularly one that's been gifted to you from another country, where and security analysts say you basically have to take the whole thing apart and put it back together to make sure there are no bugs, no built-in failures that have been put in there, could take up to 2 years. Now remember, there are new Air Force Ones on the way that Donald Trump negotiated. They are on the way. Will they be done in time for him to use? We don't know, but presidents don't do it for themselves. They do it for the next president, for the country. Up to 2 years to do that. And in that time, here's the really key part to bear in mind. Making all of those changes to this free gift is estimated to cost maybe 3 times as much as the value of the free gift. And then allegedly this goes to his private, presidential library, his presidential library. In other words, for this free plane, American taxpayers may pay an additional $800 million for 2 years of use. 2 years because this president, because he says he's been made this offer, and he doesn't want to wait for the planes that we're already paying for to get ready. Those are a lot of practical reasons why people who may say politically they like him, they don't like him, they agree with him, they don't agree with him, may say, why are you taking this supposed free gift when there are huge ethical questions about it and a lot of practical and financial questions too?
You know, the one thing that we're not hearing from Trump is what I'm hearing from Republicans and Democrats but Republicans too on the Hill, is the national security concerns about this gift.
So there's several levels of national security concern here. One, there is the idea if it is outfitted with bugs, if there's any way that the government can spy on the plane. But then there's also this level of almost exactly what he said, which is what people are concerned about. You know, they're saying that Qataris came to him and said, if we can help you, let us. I mean, that's exactly what people are afraid of, because it means what are we getting in return? What are they going to get in return? Which he seems to fundamentally not either want to answer or not really understand the level that people are concerned about this as a national security threat when he continues to just say, well, it's a free gift.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear these Republicans say over and over again, there's no such thing as a free gift. I mean, that's been the Republican
Anything coming from the folks that told us that Joe Biden was fit to go for a second term, I could never believe it.
argument as well.
Yeah, and the Republicans, John Thune, I asked him about this yesterday about the national security concerns. He said, well, we're going to have to vet this. And he called it a hypothetical situation. And then I asked Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, about it yesterday. And he said, well, Trump, of course, shares the same national security concerns that we do, and he'll make sure this is a secure exchange.
Well, look, stripping down the plane and making sure there aren't any hidden microphones on there. I as someone who's never retrofitted a 747, that doesn't seem like the biggest. Yeah, not yet. The day is young. That doesn't seem like the biggest challenge here. To me, the bigger question is, will Thune and Johnson follow through and do real oversight? You know, Ted Cruz, chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, does he look into this? Like, these are going like.
I'm guessing no.
Yeah, right. And I think we sort of know, but that's really where, if this story advances beyond sort of liberal outrage and some sort of Republican concerns, that's really what will happen. It'll happen where you and I spend most of our days on Congress. And I'm not convinced that we're going to have big hearings looking into this as long as Republicans, here's my caveat, as long as Republicans are in charge. Yeah, that's my parachute.
Yeah, it also sort of makes Donald Trump look like the beta, right? And the country, we're going across the world because we're too poor to get a plane from somebody else. I mean, this.
Sit down.
This is Trump, who's like, we're a superpower, and yet we're taking handouts from Qatar.
That's why they gave him, for the Defense Department of the United States, his 747 Boeing. That's a position of strength. I mean, who gives you a gift for $400 million? No precedent in the history of America has taken that type of gift before. That's respect. Okay, now you could argue and say, what is he or what are they getting in return? Now, that's a valid question. But when you say it looks weak or America looks weak, I don't think so. That's cap.
And authoritarian nations, so that in and of itself, just sort of the optics of it, is really, I think, contradicting what Trump's sort of idea of.
And everybody talking about, well, why would he take a gift from Qatar? The Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. Hello, you guys remember that? Because everybody's talking about this 747 Boeing like it's some sort of Trojan horse. So was the Statue of Liberty a Trojan horse as well? Should we return it back to France? I don't think so.
America is, and himself as like the great salesman in bringing America back to greatness. Well, if our greatness is relying on another country's largesse, it seems to be a contradiction.
Yeah, but he's just going to say he's getting a good deal, right? Yeah. He's already said that, right?
I mean, he would say the opposite, that he's getting the deal because he's the alpha, and they want to give him
But also,
money.
he's no deal because it's going to take millions or billions to retrofit the
and
plane
years.
Years, exactly. He'll never fly this plane, most likely, as president anyway.
Well, I hope he doesn't, because he's not a licensed pilot.
It's about his post-presidency.
It is about his post-presidency.
As I mentioned, you're the former CIA.
The same people that told you that Joe Biden was fit and ready to go for a second term. These are the same people. Yeah, I can't believe those
Director, this gift of this plane, unprecedented from Qatar. Any concerns from an intel standpoint?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there's a lot of concerns about when you buy a plane from a country like Qatar. You have to worry about just exactly how many listening devices are part of that plane. What other intelligence are they trying to gather? Look, this is not a smart idea for the president for several reasons. One, constitutionally, I think our forefathers made clear that presidents ought not to get a gift from a foreign country through the Emoluments Clause. Secondly, I think that the appearance of having the president of the United States flying around the world in a plane from Qatar just presents the wrong kind of appearance for a president of the United States. And thirdly, I think it contradicts what the president wants in terms of his whole economic policy, which is to restore manufacturing in the United States and to have Americans buy American. Here he is receiving a gift from a foreign country rather than turning to our own manufacturers. Now, I'm glad he made the deal for Boeing with regards to Qatar. I think that's an important step in the right direction. But why isn't he putting more pressure on Boeing to produce a plane for the president of the United States? That's where the pressure ought to be, on Boeing to help produce Air Force One.
You spoke about the trust that you have in President Trump. I'd love to get you on the record regarding this planned gift from the Qatari government to the president, this luxury jet worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You laugh. I do wonder whether you think this is ethical.
I'm not laughing.
Well, you were chuckling. I wonder if you think it's ethical for President Trump to accept it.
Well, I'm chuckling, I guess, because I think the media is making a much bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. Look, have you been to the Reagan Library in California? There's the old Air Force One sitting there in the Reagan Museum. That's what's going to happen to this gift, not to President Trump, but the Department of Defense. This will go through the ethical checks and the legal checks to make sure it is everything's in order before it happens. But I know that, look, President Trump is frustrated that he's flying around in this 40-year-old plane. He has wanted a new Air Force One. He's tried to work with Boeing to make it happen. For whatever reasons, it's not happened. I mean, my goodness, the president in his first term wanted to change the paint scheme from the dark blue, light blue, white to red, white, and blue to make it look more patriotic, and they wouldn't let him do it. He's going to get his way on this. It's going to be painted red, white, and blue. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, will be flying on this new plane unless the courts intervene.
It's over,
and I don't think that's going to happen because I think what he's doing is perfectly legal. This is a gift to the Department of Defense. It's not to Donald J. Trump.
Would you be saying the same thing if this was a gift, aside from all the national security concerns about having a foreign power put together arguably one of the most sensitive pieces of equipment that the president uses? Would you be saying the same thing, this is totally fine, if this were a gift from the Qataris or any other government to Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton?
Sure.
You would?
I think in intellectually honest with you, Boris, I would, because it's not going to Joe Biden. It's not going to Barack Obama. It's going to the Department of Defense. These departments.
Did you guys hear that? It's going to the Department of Defense. Okay, stop crying.
Are allowed to accept gifts, as far as I know. We have trade with other countries. That's why President Trump was in the Middle East, to get these relationships going. I think it was a great gesture on the part of the Qatari government, and we'll see what happens. But let's meet back here in 6 months and see what happens.
Exactly. I support it. Support it.
It is so fascinating. I mean, he has been very consistent over the last few weeks in raising the alarm about this. And he's right. About 44% of all the people enrolled in Medicaid are living in congressional districts that are represented by Republicans. It's 36.8 million people. Millions will be affected by this, no question about it. And it's also something that I'm not sure. I mean, I think you've done some reporting on this. They're going to get the results that they're hoping for. But force people to work, or say you're going to force people to work, kick them off the program. Will it produce more jobs for people?
Right, Abby. So Senator Hawley is part of this faction of the Republican Party that wants the party to be a more working class party. And so that's why you get the criticism from there. And the theory here is that the GOP can save some money in the gigantic budget bill. There are a lot of spending items in there, and they want to claw some revenue back. They can save some money by adding work requirements to Medicaid. And I think there's a view out there in the country that maybe a lot of people are not working and getting Medicaid, and that's not popular. Actually, that's not really true. About 70 million Americans are covered by Medicaid. And according to the CBO, at least, by 2034, this bill would take health insurance away from 8 million people. So you can see from the math there that like maybe 10% of the people currently covered by Medicaid are working age adults who are not in work. So the amount of money saved by adding work requirements is actually relatively small. And, that's the theory. But then in practice, there's a kind of real world experiment because the state of Arkansas put work requirements on Medicaid a couple of years ago, did this experiment. And what they found actually is the employment rate didn't go up much, but quite a few people lost their health care.
Yeah, I mean, Batya, you're working class people. I mean, is Josh Hawley right that this is not the bargain that they voted for when they put Trump into the White House?
I'm 100% with Hawley on this. I think that they should be leaving this stuff alone and raising taxes on the rich. I think that's totally consistent with what the president promised the American people. It's why people voted for him, to represent working class people, and It's unbelievably popular. And Trump likes popular things. So I think Hawley is 100% correct on this, and he is the future of the Republican Party. This is a working class party at this point, and he knows it.
How?
Well,
I support it, definitely support it, because he said he would not cut Medicaid rather. He said he would not cut Social Security. Okay, so you promised that, President Trump, and I voted for you, so you have to stand by your word. All right, so I believe he's going to stand by his word. Of course, people are going to tout the word saying he's going to cut Medicaid, he's going to cut Social Security. He's not. Okay, because he doesn't want to be the person that breaks his word. He wants to be that person that say, you know what, promises made, promises kept. That's what he stands for.
I don't think the American people voted for Trump to raise taxes. So we all know there's a spending problem. That's the problem. And, it's Medicaid, Medicare, and obviously Social Security are the big outlays. It's close to $1 trillion in Medicaid, about $900 billion, I think, right now, for about 72 million people, as was just said. It's really shows the failure of Obamacare. And Obamacare is so expensive. A family has to pay about $24,000 to be covered under Obamacare. You can't afford it. So all this thing about Obama was going to solve the healthcare problem, everybody's moved over to Medicaid. It's moving towards socialized medicine for the entire country. That's the problem. And that's what they're trying to figure out how to fix. And when you have working age males that are, on Medicaid, that's a real problem when you have 4% unemployment. So we have a pretty full employment economy. Wages are not as high as they need to be. A lot of that has to do with immigration problems and outsourcing of jobs. So there's a whole gamut of issues around this. But when you have that many people that can work and pay, there needs to be something that needs to be done on the healthcare cost side of things. And that's a really hard problem to tackle.
So you kick people off Medicaid first and then you figure out the rest later? I mean, I think that's the issue, is that you kick them off and then what?
Well, I don't think that's what they were saying.
I just want to remind people, we're talking about healthcare here. Yeah. So access to medical care for people. A lot of them are children. A lot of them are elderly. All of them are poor, virtually. So what then? I mean, you're saying basically to fix the affordability problem, we have to fix the healthcare problem. There's no attempt to do that. I just don't see how this works out.
It wasn't about kicking people off. It's, as it was said, it was about creating some work requirements that people can't just sit around, working age, fully able people, and just collect Medicaid and benefits. I mean, we've got to get off of that, medicine that's been out there for a long time.
What about the job seekers? What about the people who are looking for work? As you mentioned, we're in a near full employment economy right now. Wisconsin has had historically high employment for the last several years now. So there are people who still are in need of health care but cannot find a job. The unfortunate reality is that with health care being tied to a person's employment, when you lose that job, you've lost your health care. Yeah. What else can you rely on?
The whole system's broken.
Well, the whole system. And I have been a long proponent of universal health care system, which would solve all of our problems, to be quite honest. And I don't know a whole bunch of arguments against it. If you look at the amount of money that people would be saving, consumers, that would ultimately be bankrolled by raising taxes on the wealthy, as you mentioned. Thank you for that point. And what Josh Hawley also has advocated for.
Well, raising taxes on the wealthy isn't going to pay for any of this type of thing. I mean, there's just not enough wealthy people to pay for everything.
I guess what Holly is also suggesting, and you can jump in on this, I mean, is essentially that Republicans want to give a lot of tax giveaways in this bill. Some of them are new, some of them are existing tax law. And they want to do that by paying for it, by cutting benefits for poor people. That's how he laid it out, okay? If I don't see how if you're one of those poor people and you work really hard at a McDonald's and they're not providing health insurance and you have nowhere else to turn, you're paying your taxes. How do you not see this as sort of, robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially?
I've heard these complaints about Obamacare now from Republicans since Obamacare passed. And you had the opportunity to get rid of Obamacare and replace it with something else. And all I've heard about is, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. You haven't repealed it because you have nothing to replace it with. So let's start with that premise. Second, you're absolutely right. What this is attempting to do is to take away health care from millions upon millions of Americans. And then you're going to say, well, we'll figure it out later. Because that's effectively what you're suggesting. You're blaming this on Obamacare. You're blaming this on a whole host of issues that you're in charge of everything now. You're in charge of the executive branch. You're in charge of both. Days. Not just 100 days. You were in charge under Donald Trump, right? The first time around. What did you do? You couldn't do it. And you didn't do it because you had
60 votes. I mean, John McCain voted against it.
You know what? You can blame John McCain all you want, but the reality is you could have gotten rid of it, but you had no plan to replace it with. And all of those people would have been thrown off of Obamacare, including Josh Hawley's state, which expanded Medicaid, under Obamacare. So you can talk about it all you want. Where's your plan? You don't have a plan.
So, John, let me ask you this. What happens, because this is a problem for Republicans right now, just among Republicans. People are not happy that they're not cutting enough spending. Some people are unhappy that they're dipping into Medicaid. Some people are unhappy about a bunch of other things, SALT, state and local taxes. If they increase spending by like $4 trillion and only cut it by like $1 trillion, what do you think is going to happen as a result of that?
As you say, the projection is, a $4 trillion increase in spending. At some point, the US government's ability to just carry on spending more than it brings in revenue and financing that difference through raising debt, at some point, you run into trouble with that. Now, no economist can say when that will be, but if you look at the debt to GDP ratio, it's increased a lot over the past 10 years. And, that's not a great way to run your economy. I mean, the deficit already is, I think, 6.9% of GDP at a time when the economy has been growing pretty strongly. Ideally, when things are good, you want to balance your budget and then save your firepower for when there's a pandemic or a global financial crisis or something you really need to borrow.
I think we're also in a world in which I'm not sure.
This is a two-party problem.
Republicans used to talk about this a lot. They don't really much when Trump is in office.
They better not touch Medicaid or Social Security because the OG promised.
We're going to get perspective now from John Bolton, former National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN. Ambassador Bolton, the gross tonnage of all of this, the plane gift from Qatar, the Trump Organization's business deals overseas, the cryptocurrency ventures. Where are you on this plane? How do you see this?
Well, I think there are a lot of things wrong with it. I think there is a serious emoluments clause argument here. The Justice Department has apparently not been able to find the problem. Let me see if I can help. The way this has been put together, it's what's sometimes called a structured transaction in criminal law terms. Each individual link may look okay, but the end result after the Department of Defense to Department of Defense transfer and after going to the libraries, Trump wants this plane to fly around on after he's no longer president. So I have
you have no doubt in your mind. You have no doubt in your mind that, he talked about it going to the library. You have no.
He has his own plane with his name on it. Ladies and gentlemen, why do these people keep doing this? This man has had a plane with his name on it for what? For like a decade or 2 decades, probably 3 decades. He's a billionaire. He can afford to buy his own 747. Hello?
No doubt it's not going to be mothballed in the library for visitors. He would fly around on this.
Of course not. Look, if he wants an Air Force One for his library, there is one at the Ronald Reagan Library. When the current Air Force Ones are decommissioned, he can have one of them. But I would give some advice to the Qataris to get themselves out of the hole that Trump has in part put them in. If it is a government-to-government transaction, defense to defense, I'd say take the $400 million, whatever the value of the plane is, and commit that they will build at Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar over and above anything they've already built or committed to, $400 million worth of upgrades to that base. Build the most deeply buried, most hardened command bunker in the world. Do whatever you can with it. And if you can't spend all the money at Al Udeid, go to the Central Command headquarters in Tampa and spend a couple $100 million there. Spend it on the U.S. Special Operations Command, which is close by in Tampa. That would be a gift for the United States. Nobody could say that was personal to Donald Trump. And we could use the extra $400 million in our defense budget because Trump's budget request for the next fiscal year is not as high as it needs to be.
From a national security perspective, does accepting a plane from Qatar make any sense to you? I mean, just the retrofitting alone, from what I understand, not only could it take a long time and cost a lot of money, but it's incredibly, I mean, it is a huge task to make this safe for the president to fly in this plane, even from an intelligence standpoint.
Well, wouldn't matter if it was from Qatar. If it was from Great Britain, you'd have to go through the same security precautions. Now, Trump can waive all of them, but it would be a huge mistake. The Air Force One is not a flying palace. I mean, take it as a former passenger. It's a flying office. It's the White House in the air with incredible facilities and capabilities that many of which are classified. I'm sure this is a beautiful plane. But does it have aerial refueling capabilities? Does it have secure communications? I think the refurbishing might take as long as the rest of Trump's remaining time in office. I'm not sure he really cares about that because he doesn't necessarily want it while he's in office. He wants it after he's gone. And that's why the way this structuring of the transaction has worked is that it gives DOJ, well, apparently they think they found a way around the emoluments clause. I think they're wrong if you look at the whole thing and what the purpose in Trump's mind really is.
Where do you stand on the change vis-a-vis Syria and its leader?
Well, I don't understand why it's being done this way. Al-Sharaf, formerly al-Jilani, his nom de guerre when he was an al-Nusra terrorist, may have trimmed his beard, he may have ditched his combat fatigues for a coat and tie, he's got good PR advice, but he has yet to take steps that I think are convincing to us that he's no longer a terrorist. I'm glad that he's anti-Iran. That's a big negative for Iran, and we should take advantage of that. I will say that Trump did tell him to try and sign an Abraham Accord recognition of Israel and take other steps against terrorists. But that's not enough. We should ask for more, not just rhetoric from this tough guy, but actual performance. Trump didn't ask for it, and he didn't ask for the other commitments before he gave up the sanctions. That's not the art of the deal to me. Now, maybe something has happened behind the scenes we don't know about, but if the Syrian government wanted the sanctions released, they should have at least committed to not just combating terrorism or recognizing Israel, but providing a full, total, complete evaluation of what the Assad regime did with American hostages and other foreign hostages. They're not the Assad regime. There's no reason to cover that up. They should open up their facilities for inspection by the U.S. or international authorities on the Assad regime's chemical weapons operations and biological weapons efforts to make sure none of that is still going on. They should commit not to allow the Turks to have undue influence in northern Syria. And frankly, they should kick the Russians out of the Tartus naval base and the air base nearby in Latakia province. If they performed, if they did those things, then I could see lifting the sanctions, but not now.
Ambassador John Bolton, thank you. Appreciate it.
The handshake that you see on screen could reshape the Middle East for years to come because it shows the United States president embracing a once U.S. designated terrorist who is now the leader of Syria. Ahmed al-Sharaa spent years fighting U.S. forces in Iraq. There was a long-standing $10 million bounty on his head, and the U.S. just dropped it actually a few months ago. He was once known as Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani and was placed on the U.S. global terrorist list back in 2013 for leading an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria. He allegedly orchestrated suicide bombings across Syria. And as a reminder, I want you to listen just one more time to what President Trump had to say following that historic meeting when I asked him about it on Air Force One today. How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass, very strong pass fighter.
Does that worry you?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together.
A strong past, indeed. My source tonight is retired four-star General Stanley McChrystal, who has a new book out on character choices that define a life that's available now. And it's so great to have you here, sir. On what the president was just saying there in this meeting, which is, I mean, nothing short of historic between the two of them. You commanded forces in the Middle East. I wonder what your reaction is just to if I told you, 15 years ago that this would be happening, what you would have said.
Well, I probably would have said unlikely, but the reality is people who are our enemies often evolve into not being our enemies, and people who were terrorists evolve into something else. Menachem Begin was a terrorist in his early days. Nelson Mandela was labeled a terrorist. And so many people who feel very strongly about something actually exhibit a force of will, and then they can mature and evolve into being more. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but I think we need to be open-eyed and open-minded about it and give it a shot.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen some hope for what this could mean for Syria. I mean, that's certainly the president's view of this, as he kind of sees it as an economic lifeline. He really wants Syria to sign on to the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel. He did seem to note that that's further down the road if it happens. I wonder if you see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I actually think it's possible. I think the Mideast is in a period in which the tectonic plates are mobile now. They're not all moving like we'd like them to, but there's an opportunity for progress. Now, there are certain very recalcitrant issues that still stay and some opposition, Iran and whatnot. But the reality is we've got regimes and leaders who are interested in a different future. And that could give a lot of options. Now, the United States role, I think, is critical here. We can't just be following. We can't just be doing what other countries want. We've got to have a plan, and we've got to play an activist role in it, in my view.
Yeah, obviously the geopolitics seem to be scrambled in a real way. We're in Doha right now, and the Qataris, as you know, they've got a big military base here. They've been key mediators when it comes to hostages being released by Hamas and trying to end the war there. A lot of the scrutiny, though, in this particular visit has focused on the administration's plans to accept that luxury jet from Qatar. I just wonder if that is something that you personally, given your experience, would you recommend that? How do you see that?
I think it's problematic. As an American, I don't feel very good about it, simply because I think it projects a view of American character, what we're willing to do in a way that I'm not comfortable with. Now, I'll leave it to legal people to argue about whether the Emoluments Clause or other things, whether they can make it work. But I would rather him not do it. And I think that in the long run, it's not either a good optic or a good reality for the relationship.
Sort of. Well, okay. So here is the Qatarian family or leader saying that, you know what?
Neither the US
we're not
president
giving Donald Trump the plane. We're giving it to the Defense Department. Check this out.
Amir made specific mention of the now controversial gift of a luxury jumbo jet from Qatar to the United States. But during an interview with CNN's Becky Anderson, Qatar's Prime Minister dismissed the controversy. He also talked about a multi-billion-dollar deal with Boeing, which comes despite a string of controversies in recent years and questions over safety standards at Boeing.
You've pointed out that there is a commitment to buy over 200 jets from Boeing, price tag of around $200 million. Given it is Boeing's failure to deliver a new Air Force One to the president on time as promised, something like a 5-year delay, sir. Are you confident that the aircraft manufacturer will deliver on time and on budget for you?
Well, Boeing has been a reliable partner for Qatar Airways for a long time, and of course we trust them, and we are confident that they are going to continue this partnership together with Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways has been nominated as the top airline in the world for many years consecutively, and we are using Boeing actually quite significantly in our fleet.
Can we take a moment to get to the bottom of this offer by Qatar of a multi-million-dollar Boeing 747-8 to President Trump? When did your government first start talking to the US about this aircraft, and who broached the subject first? Was it the US or was it Qatar?
Well, actually, it's, I know that there were a lot of speculations about this topic. I don't know what is the reason that instigated this. This is a very simple government-to-government dealing when Ministry of Defense and Department of Defense are still exchanging the possibility of transferring one of our 747s-8 to be used as Air Force One, and it's still under the legal review. So there is nothing really. I don't know what was like, why it became like so big as a news that this is something that considered very in a very strange way. It's we have done a lot together with the US. For example, the airlifting that happened during Afghanistan evacuation, 80% of that been taken care of from Qatar.
I think the point is that this people are confused as to whether this is a personal offer to President Trump from the Emir. Certainly President Donald Trump suggesting in an interview on Tuesday that Qatar approached him claiming that one Qatari official said, if I can help you, let me do that. Is that true?
Well, it is a government-to-government transaction. It has nothing to do with personnel, whether it's on the US side or on the Qatari side. It's the Ministry of Defense, Department of Defense. So I don't see anything in that.
You're alluding to the fact that this has created huge controversy in the States, and this is sort of bipartisan criticism, Republicans and Democrats accusing the president of graft, and Qatar of buying influence. Are you?
Why would we buy an influence in the United States? If you look just, in the last 10 years of the US-Qatar relationship, Qatar has been always there for the US when it's needed, whether it's on the war against terror, whether it's in the evacuation of Afghanistan, whether it's on releasing hostages from different countries around the world. And Qatar has been always a reliable partner for the US, has been always stepping up to help and to support the US, because we believe that this friendship needs to be mutually beneficial for both countries. It cannot be a one-way relationship.
Can we talk about Syria?
Sure.
You're a strong backer of this new government, and you've been lobbying for sanctions release for some time now to unlock aid into the country. Now, Donald Trump in Riyadh announced that he is lifting sanctions. This news is making huge waves across this region. What do you now believe that you can accomplish for Syria?
Well, I think first of all, the Syrian people deserve to live a dignified life, and basically the sanctions were imposed on Assad regime, given his behavior against his own people. And now, if the sanctions remain as they were, how we will be able to help the Syrian people to change their situation and to get out of the consequences of the civil war that they had and they've been through in the last 12 years maybe. So lifting the sanction, we believe it is the right step moving forward. Now, there are a lot of questions being raised about, okay, how do we know the current government, what's about their background? Everyone has these questions, and these are legitimate questions since it's a new government. And given this background, of course, we have no knowledge about this government until they became in power. So basically, what we decided to do is to start engaging with them, to start to see if they are saying and doing the right things. Then we should support them. We should support the stability of Syria. We should support that Syria shouldn't fail and shouldn't turn into a chaos. And basically, what we've been hearing and what we've been seeing until now, we've been hearing the right things. Of course, there will be downsides from time to time. There will be some mistakes happening here and there, and this is a country which is getting out of civil war after a long time. So we believe disengaging is going to be the biggest mistake, will leave us with just one option, chaos. But engaging in a constructive manner, trying to help to alleviate the situation over there in Syria and making sure that we are working together with them step by step, that's the only way for us where we will have a chance to have a better Syria and stabilize Syria.
And let's talk about Gaza. You've been deeply involved in mediating between Israel and Hamas for more than 19 months. I've been in and out of this country and watched the efforts that have been put into that mediation. There's a high-level Israeli delegation here today. Steve Witkoff is here, Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, and his chief hostage negotiator, Adam Boehler. What can you tell us about any progress in those talks, the indirect talks, of course, with Hamas here?
Well, the progress that we have achieved by releasing Idan Alexander, the Israeli-American citizen, the day before yesterday, from our perspective, we were seeing it as a breakthrough that will help and bring back the talks on track and bring us a ceasefire and opening up a humanitarian corridor for the humanitarian assistance to come to the people of Gaza. Unfortunately, Israel's reaction to this was a mass bombing the next day while sending the delegation, and statements coming out of the Israeli government that this delegation is coming to negotiate a hostage deal without ending the war, which is basically sending the signal that we are not interested in negotiations. This was a bad signal, and we have highlighted this concern to the Israelis, and we told them that we need to engage in a meaningful negotiations that making sure that returns all the hostages safely and ending the war in Gaza and making sure that the humanitarian suffering is lifted from Gaza. Right now, our teams are engaging with both parties. We hope to see some progress. I'm not sure if this progress will be something seen very soon with this continuing behavior.
Before I let you go, this is my final question. The US is in talks with Iran. Donald Trump has said the time to choose is now. This is not an offer that will last forever. He said he'd discussed Iran with the Emir today. Did he share what that US offer to Iran looks like? Are they close to a deal? And he talked about how the Emir has been a great help. So what's Qatar's involvement here?
Well, actually, we had a very good and very productive discussion between His Highness the Emir and the President about the negotiations on the Iran nuclear program. We strongly believe that this can be only solved diplomatically, and we believe that escalation is not in the interest of any party. We are trying.
There you have it. So the leadership in Qatar, they're saying, well, this is the Qatari prime minister saying, look, the gift we're giving to the Department of Defense is a government transaction. It's not personal. So I guess, is this going to calm you down a little bit? This is for the liberals, okay? Is this going to make you calm a little bit? This is the Qatari prime minister telling you by himself that he's not giving, or they're not giving, any one person, which in this case would be Trump, the 747 Boeing. They're giving it to the Defense Department. Is that okay for you? Or you want to cry TDS?
Some of the breaking news coming in. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, is issuing a new warning today, warning the company will have to raise prices due to President Trump's tariffs. The company's CEO, Doug McMillon, is expected to tell analysts this on an earnings call today. I'll read you a quote as they sent out excerpts ahead of time. "We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible, but given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins."
You better get ready.
Walmart said the prices will begin to go up later this month, and the hikes could put the company also in an uncomfortable position, if you will, with the Trump administration. You'll remember last month, the White House publicly shamed Jeff Bezos and also threatened Mattel's CEO with 100% tariffs after they said tariffs would lead to higher prices. Compare this news today with what Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told CNN's Dana Bash just on Sunday.
So we do expect a 10% baseline tariff to be in place for the foreseeable future. But don't buy the silly arguments that the U.S. consumer pays.
Joining me right now is Rick Newman, senior columnist with Yahoo Finance. It's good to see you, Rick. Okay, so what do you make, first and foremost, of the statement from Walmart?
None of this is surprising. The cost of goods is going up because these tariffs are a tax on something like $3 trillion worth of imports. So what's going to happen is, as the cost goes up to the importers such as Walmart and most retailers, they are going to pass as much of that cost on to end users as they can. This is not mysterious. We know what the level of the taxes is. It's about 30% on most stuff coming in from China. It's 25% on imported automobiles and auto parts. It's 25% on steel and aluminum. And for everything that's not covered by any of those, it's 10%. So that more or less is going to be the magnitude of the price hikes on these products that are coming in from other countries. And we know where these price hikes are going to show up as well. There's been a lot of analysis on this. We're going to see cars are going to get more expensive. Car parts are going to get more expensive. Car insurance is going to get more expensive. Leather goods such as handbags are going to get more expensive. Clothing, electronics, appliances. And we're going to hear more CEOs saying this because if you run a publicly owned company, you have an obligation to your shareholders to tell them what's going on with costs. So what's probably going to happen is we're going to see price hikes across the board from basically all retailers. So if Trump wants to go after them, he's going to go after all of them en masse instead of just picking off one or two the way he did earlier with Amazon.
Republican Congressman Andy Barr, who's a big supporter of Trump's trade policy, was on with John just last hour and was asked about this Walmart news. And essentially, his case was still to say short-term pain, long-term gain. Let me play this.
Walmart will lower prices in the long run. Prices will come down lower in the long run because we're going to get better deals. This trade policy is creating massive opportunities, and we're back in a bull market because of the developments that are happening in the trade negotiations.
What do you think of that, Rick?
That's economically illogical. So the trade deals that Trump is trying to get, the concessions he's trying to get are, to the extent he's getting any or they make any sense, are to make it more favorable to get American products into foreign markets where there are barriers. That makes sense, but that is not going to do anything to lower costs in the United States. And if Trump actually gets his wish, which is that we just start making all this stuff in the United States, it's going to get even more expensive than if it comes in from other countries with the tariffs, simply because labor costs are much higher here, manufacturing costs are much higher. It just costs more to make stuff in the United States. So if you think that this manufacturing renaissance is a good idea, it is not going to come with lower prices by definition. It's going to come with higher prices permanently. So you have to accept that trade-off.
Well, we know that when it came to baby dolls and pencils and strollers, that the president basically called it small ball. But let's see if what his reaction is to Walmart saying this, if he still thinks products coming out of the world's largest retailer Feels like small ball. It's good to see you, Rick. Thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
After we understood the level of the Russian delegation, and we saw that unfortunately they are not serious about real negotiations, at least we're not seeing yet those real decision makers among those present, although I must remind you that it was the Russians who suggested direct negotiations, and with President Trump's support, President Trump said the leaders should meet. But in respect to President Trump, despite the low level of the Russian delegation, and with respect to the high level of the Turkish delegation and President Erdogan, and having the desire to attempt to reach at least the first steps towards de-escalation and to ending the war, I decided to send our delegation to Istanbul, but not all the heads of the intelligence services and the chief of the general staff will not be there, but the Minister of Defense will head the delegation, and he will have professionals in their midst, including the military and intelligence professionals. Now, of course, the minister's counterparty will not be there. The minister's counterpart will not be in the Russian delegation. But given the Russian, Turkish, and Ukrainian presence, our defense minister...
Okay, Zelensky, thank you. Look, it's over. Okay, it's over. No free rides no more. All right, here we go.
Right now, you're looking at live pictures of President Trump and the President of the United Arab Emirates meeting at the presidential palace in Abu Dhabi. It's the third day and third country President Trump visited on this Mideast tour, and the president has reveled in the pomp and circumstance. You're seeing some of it right there. Red carpet welcome in Abu Dhabi. But the president is also facing questions about where he wasn't, in Turkey, for the Russia-Ukraine peace talks.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together. But we're going to have to get it solved because too many people are dying.
President Trump's visit to Abu Dhabi and his push for peace in Ukraine is just part of a much bigger breakneck diplomatic effort with mixed results. CNN's Alex Marquardt joins the panel now. Let's start first on this question of Ukraine and Russia and what we just heard from the president.
Yeah, I mean, the president is coming off of a week of a trip to the Middle East that went off without a hitch. It went as well as it possibly could have for him, with the exception of the distraction as far as he's concerned about the Qatari plane. And now, to some extent, he's coming crashing back to reality, where this Middle East trip, with countless economic deals that have been signed, is running straight into the far thornier issue of trying to end this war in Ukraine. And we thought we were moving towards a potentially momentous meeting with the leaders of Russia, Ukraine, and potentially Trump all at the table. Remember, it was President Putin who suggested that for the first time in 3 years, the Russians and the Ukrainians sit down together.
What do you make of what he said about, he thought I wasn't going, I thought he wasn't going? I mean,
there's been so much back and forth, and I think that this is Putin yet again thumbing his nose at this entire process by sending not himself, but a very mid-level junior delegation, while the Ukrainians have sent their top officials. Now Ukraine has scrambled and said, okay, we are going to meet with them. So there is some progress being made. But no doubt this is going to add fuel to the critics, I would say the realists, who think that Putin is playing for time and actually does not want to negotiate.
Can I remind everyone of the cartoon of Lucy and Charlie Brown and the football? I think that's what we just saw again. Putin has delayed and delayed.
Putin is Lucy here.
He is Lucy. Yes, yes. Putin is Lucy, and President Trump looked a little irritated there, and this did. If he knew I was going, he would have gone, kind of thing. Putin holds the cards here. And he is not ready to have this meeting.
And let's kind of broaden it out, as you did a little bit there, Alex, about the many, many things that the president has been doing just in the past few days. Just today, we saw the president call for a U.S.-led freedom zone in Gaza, days after negotiating, of course, for the release of American-Israeli former hostage Adnan Alexander, who was kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. The president also claimed that Iran has sort of agreed to terms on a deal to deny them nuclear weapons program. We'll see if that has traction. And then, of course, we have seen these conversations that he's having right now in Abu Dhabi. We saw the conversations he had in Saudi Arabia. And so it's obviously very mixed what is going on, Isaac. Understandably, because he put such a premium as a candidate on ending the Russia-Ukraine war. Clearly, he hasn't given up. It is much harder than he thought. There are talks now resuming on Israel-Gaza. So mixed bag, I think, is maybe fair, but there have been more successes than perhaps people thought he would have in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Gaza thing, he's made this announcement now. How does it square with what he said a couple months ago, where the U.S. was going to take over Gaza and redevelop it? How does that work? Part of this is he makes announcements sometimes that people like or that seem like success, and then we have to see what actually comes of them, right? But I think when it comes to the Ukraine situation, we see there most of all in dealing with Putin, but overall, Donald Trump is a man who has done very well on the force of his own willpower. It's gotten him elected president of the United States twice. It's gotten him to be an international celebrity, all of these things. But he is running up against other people who have a lot of willpower. And one of those people is Vladimir Putin, who does not seem to care that much that he is frustrating Donald Trump.
And another one is Benjamin Netanyahu, who in some regards right now is pulling a Putin. He is bending to the pressure, like Putin is, of sending a team to negotiate a ceasefire. But it isn't the highest level team, and Netanyahu isn't showing any sign of really budging when it comes to this IDF operation that they're planning for Gaza. Certainly there's an immense amount of pressure on both Putin and Netanyahu, but so far they are playing along with Trump, but they're managing to resist him.
As Trump said that he would resolve these things within 24 hours or before he was even inaugurated. It didn't happen because he's running up against these forces.
Well, and that's to the point. Two people under pressure, two world leaders under pressure. Well, you can add President Trump to that list because he himself, to your smart point, had put this deadline of the day one he was going to resolve these wars. Well, the reality is a lot different. And to your point, Jamie, about how he looked irritated, you know, these talks, the way that he was describing them was that nothing was going to go anywhere unless it was him and Putin speaking, which sets up yet another marker of when does that conversation happen. And so as he sets these markers and as they sort of fall away, the question, or these conflicts remain, and the question is, how do they get resolved?
Potential peace talks between Russia and Ukraine may still happen Friday, even without the leaders of either country. Meanwhile, the war rages on. Both sides accuse each other of launching drone strikes overnight. Ukrainian authorities say 5 people were killed and 20 wounded by Russian shelling and other attacks. Take a listen to what these medical workers said.
War does not bring any good. Tens of thousands of people have passed through our walls alone. I'm afraid to give a figure, but the number is of an average Ukrainian city, up to 50,000. This is a lot with such difficult injuries, and unfortunately, it is almost impossible to restore their health. All of them will need rehabilitation, lifelong or annual.
It has been the 4th year of intensive work, 24/7 sometimes. The whole team could stay awake for the entire day. This is the 4th year already.
All right, time now for the exchange. With still no end to the war in sight in Ukraine, let's break down today's events and what they tell us about hopes for a resolution. I'm joined by former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. Ambassador Taylor, thanks so much for joining us. So there we saw President Zelensky live up to his pledge that he would in fact show up in Turkey for these talks this week. His counterpart from Russia was not there. I can't say that many are surprised by that outcome, but instead he sent a lower level delegation to which President Zelensky described as just theatrical props. Would you agree with that statement from President Zelensky?
Yeah, I would agree. It is not a serious delegation coming from the Kremlin, from Moscow. And we remember where this came from. With the idea for these discussions today in Turkey came from President Putin last weekend. He felt pressure last weekend coming from the British, French, German, and Polish leaders, and with American support, that he was going to be sanctioned if he didn't agree to a ceasefire. So he said, well, okay, we'll have a conversation on Thursday in Turkey. And then he left it unclear as to whether he would attend until last night, as you've reported. He finally decided he was going to not come and send this low-level delegation. So that's disarray in the Kremlin and causing people to realize, I mean, this is very clear, who's the problem in this negotiation? It's the Russians.
Well, President Trump had intimated at one point during this trip to the Gulf that he himself may travel to Turkey if President Putin also was there. And then today, when asked if he was disappointed about President Putin not showing up, he said, quote, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, which sort of suggests that he may be willing to grant yet another summit between the two leaders, which is something that Putin all along has wanted. What do you make of that response from President Trump? Because as we noted, this 30-day ceasefire deal was something that he had initially put on the table himself.
You're exactly right. Yana, you're exactly right. This idea for a 30-day ceasefire what came from President Trump. And President Trump and President Zelensky agreed on it. And President Trump took it to President Putin, who said no. Now, on the question of getting the three together, President Zelensky is there. He's in Turkey. President Trump is in the region, and he said he had been willing to come today, might be willing to come tomorrow. Again, the problem is the Russian president. Putin has not said he's going to come, and that will not happen. That three-way conversation can't take place until Putin decides he's going to come to Turkey. So that's where the problem is. The President Zelensky and President Trump are in the region and in the country, ready to meet, and Putin is not.
Uh-oh. All right. This is what you get when you are a full-time daddy. All right, with that being said, let's check this out. The OG, the 45th, definitely making America proud abroad. This is President Trump giving a remark at Qatar. I mean, just take a look at the greatness in the room. Everybody's giving this man the standing ovation everywhere he goes.
Highest by far. Give a special hello to, I would have been president 20 years ago if I looked. Well, thank you very much, everybody. This is an honor. What a beautiful group of people you are. You are good. I wish I looked like you. I would have been president 20 years ago if I looked like you. But I want to give a special hello to Al Udeid Air Base, sometimes referred to as the Deed. That's a little sinister term, the Deed. Today, we can all relax and be at ease, and we're going to have a little fun. I have nothing else to do, so let's have a little fun, right? So I'm thrilled to be here with the men and women who embody American strength and pride, the warriors of the United States Armed Forces. It's an amazing group of people. You are, without a doubt, the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. That's the way it is. I said it last night. I said it strong. We have the strongest military in the world. There's not even a contest. We have the best equipment. Nobody has equipment like us. Nobody has the planes or the missiles or anything else. And as your commander-in-chief, I'm here to say that America's military will soon be bigger, better, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. We just did a budget. The budget was the highest by far, over $1 trillion. It's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And hopefully it's peace through strength. Hopefully we don't have to use it. Because if you use it, I feel sorry for the other guy, but we don't want to have to use it.
That's right.
I want to recognize a true warrior, and that's our Secretary of Defense. They put him through hell, the radical left did, and he's incredible. You know, he went to the best schools, he did the best stuff. He's a smart guy, and he's a great guy, and I just listened to his words standing backstage when he was speaking, and he really has it right on the peg. Pete Hegseth, he's going to be great. You're going to love this guy. You're going to love him. And I also want to influence you to clap for a man who's a great influencer. In fact, my son, Barron, said, "Dad, you got to do an interview with somebody I hadn't heard of." But my son knew very well. He knows everyone. He said, "Dad, this is before the election. You know, we won in a landslide, in case you hadn't known." But he said, "Dad, you got to do an interview with a guy named Theo Vaughn." I said, "Who the hell is Theo Vaughn?" He said, "Dad, he's such a big guy. You got to do an interview." So he knew all the names. I didn't know the names. And where is Theo? He's around here someplace, I think. Theo, thank you very much. That's Barron. You know Barron. He said, "You got to do with it." We had a good time, right? Had a good time. We had like 270 million people that listened. So you know what? I think Barron was right. Thank you for being here, Theo. Appreciate it. Also, Lee Greenwood, right from the beginning, that song went on. And you know, that song was a successful song, but we made it the most, number one. We made that song, it's the top of the list of that type of song. That's a pretty big, I don't want to go into the list because you'll get upset with me if I do. Like the national anthem and things. It's like, and it became unbelievable. And I was saying you could get Elvis or anybody else to do a song. There's nothing, that was my intro song right from the beginning. Because as you know, we won 3 elections, okay? And some people want us to do a 4th. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. You saw the new hat. The hottest hat is, it says, Trump 2028. We're driving the left crazy when you see that. We didn't need that hat. But it's been an amazing period of time. And when Lee Greenwood did that song, it went from the first day. I came out, we played it. It was a great song, but we didn't know. And then I did it a second time, a third time. And that was 968 rallies ago. Can you believe that? We did 968 rallies. Another hat says 968. I said, what the hell does that mean? That's the number of rallies. I said, you have to be kidding. But from the very beginning, and we played Lee's song, and it was the walk-on. And then for the last inauguration, I had all the big singers, they wanted to do a song for me, and they wanted to have me walk on to their song. And my people, oh, that would be nice, that would be nice. And when I heard about it, we were all set. We had a lot of them. And I heard about it. I said, I'm not switching. Are you kidding me? I'm not switching. So we stick with Lee, but there's nobody could have done better than Lee. And he's been so loyal and so great. And it's been really about 9 years of that stuff. And, we had really, honestly, we had 3 unbelievable campaigns, and it's been an honor. And there's nobody been stronger than the military in terms of backing us, nobody. So I just want to thank you all very much. Great honor. Thank you very much. And also with us today is really a great talent and somebody who's one of the most popular television hosts in history. Still looks young to me, but he's been doing it a long time. But he's an incredible man. He's always seems to take my side, and therefore I like him even more. But he has common sense. We talk about common sense all the time, but he's one of the biggest in the history of television. The great Sean Hannity. He's here someplace. Sean, stand up wherever you are. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Where is he? Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean. He was a little shy for a change. I've never seen that. We're also grateful to have a very excellent ambassador, Timmy Davis. Everybody loves him. Timmy, thank you very much. Thank you, Timmy. Along with your great military leaders, these are real leaders. These are real tough cookies. Lieutenant General Derek Trapper France, Major General David Shoemaker, Brigadier General Richard Deuce Dickens, Chief Master Sergeants Chris Murphy and Joshua Wiener, and Colonel Brian Ellis. We want to thank you, amazing people. They're real leaders, and this is one of the great bases anywhere in the world, and we're lucky to have them. Thank you very much, fellas. And a very special thanks as well to our partners from the Qatar Army and Armed Forces. Let's give them a really special hand. They are so great. They are so great. And in particular, we want to give a little special applause for somebody that's been so good. Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister, Saud. Where are you, Saud? Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. Yesterday, we signed an agreement for Qatar to purchase $42 billion worth of the finest American military hardware, including THAAD missile batteries, Pegasus refueling aircraft, Desert Vipers, light armored vehicles, amphibious combat vehicles, the MQ-9B, and the Sky Guardian drones. That's all the best stuff. If it isn't, please stand up and tell me and we'll get something else. But I believe it's the best. Qatar will also be investing $10 billion to support this massive base in the coming years, and there's no place like it, they say. And a man, the leader, Amir, he's been a special friend of mine for a long time, long before I did the political thing. When he was a novice, he was a young guy, and we got to know each other, and we liked each other and got along long before I ever thought of running for president. And it's nice when you have that kind of a relationship. We got along right from the beginning. He's a special guy. He's a great leader of your country. So I want to just congratulate you on that, and all the Qatari people. A spectacular group, and it's an honor, and I don't think our friendship's ever been stronger than it is right now. It's you had the last administration. I don't know if they knew too much about what was happening, but this administration does, and you will never see anything like the relationship that we have. We just left Saudi Arabia, as you know, and you have a fantastic crown prince. He is a fantastic guy likewise, and we're going from here, we're going to UAE and United Arab Emirates, and we're going to see another leader. We have, it's an amazing part of the world, and our relationship has never been stronger. And you're going to see that as time goes by. But with us, it's not words. As you know, I'm in the midst of a very historic trip, visiting the key partners in the Gulf. We had just some incredible stopovers and a wonderful day. Yesterday, we had the dinner, however, with His Highness, the Emir. And he is, I'm going to see him in a little while. I'm going to be saying goodbye to him, but we'll be saying hello again very, very soon. But no visit in the Gulf would be complete without stopping to salute the people who keep America safe, strong, and free, and the patriots of the United States Army, Navy, Space Force. I love Space Force. That's I have to say, that's my little baby. You know, I started that. They said, that will never work. Oh, it worked. You know, we were way behind Russia and China, and now we're way, way ahead of everybody. So Space Force, I'm very happy. That was mine. You know, not since the Air Force has that happened. So we created a force, and it's a big force, and it's a brilliant force. So Space Force, thank you for doing such a great job. The Marines, and of course, the United States Air Force. Al Udeid is the home of the legendary 379th Air Expeditionary Wing, known as the Grand Slam Wing. We also have the 1st Expeditionary Theater Support Group. You got them all. And let's not forget the top-notch Army soldiers from the 11th Air Defense Artillery, the Imperial Brigade. Thank you, fellas. That's great. We also have the 8th Expeditionary Air Mobility Squadron, known as Mighty Ochos. Where are the Ochos? We don't want to fight with them. All of you are the tip of the spear. You're the finest we have. Anywhere in the world, you're the finest we have. You're the finest anyone has in the fight against the enemies of civilization. You're the people that are defeating chaos, combating terror, defending our interests, supporting our allies, securing our homeland, and making America incredibly proud. And you know what? Making America great again. That's what's happened. It's happened very fast. Happened very fast. As president, my priority is to end conflicts, not start them, but I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States of America or our partners. And this is one of our great partners right here. When we're threatened, America's military will answer our enemies without even thinking about it. We have overwhelming strength and devastating force. And we had people that didn't like to talk about that, you know? They didn't want to talk about the level of quality that we have. They didn't want to talk about anything. We're going to have a big parade this year, you know, in Washington, D.C., a real parade. And I'll tell you just a little story. A week ago, May 8th, I'd call up a certain country, and they said, oh, we're celebrating the victory of World War II today, sir. Oh, really? I'd speak to one of the presidents or prime ministers or whatever. And they were so busy. Oh, yes, we're celebrating the victory of World War II. Then I speak to another one, and they were celebrating. And the fact is, Russia was celebrating. France was celebrating. Everybody was celebrating but us. And we're the ones that won the war. We won the war. And they helped. But without us, they don't win the war. We're all speaking German. You know that, right? Without us, they're speaking German, maybe a little Japanese too. We won the war, and we're the only ones that didn't celebrate. So what I did is I got my crack staff over there, and we did it every time. We have May 8th, and we also have the date in November, that sacred date in November for World War I, because we won that war too. But think of it, I'm calling. Now, we love France, right? But I think we did a little more to win the war than France did. Do we agree? You know, I don't want to be a wise guy. But when Hitler made his speech at the Eiffel Tower, I would say that wasn't exactly ideal. And I called up the president, Macron, good guy, by the way. Donald, we are celebrating our victory over the Germans. Oh, that's wonderful. No, we don't take credit for what we do. And I said, what the hell? Every country I've spoken to in the last week is celebrating the war but us. Isn't that terrible? So we're going to be doing holidays, but I said it has to be a working holiday because you can only do so many of them. We have a lot of holidays. I'm not so sure we should have them, and you don't have to go to work. Our country has to go to work. So we're going to have a working holiday for each one of those 2 dates. And we're going to be celebrating, too, because we should celebrate more than anybody else. And others did help a lot, but nobody helped like us. We wouldn't have won. I mean, the fact is, not winnable without us. And now we're stronger than ever before. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We had a great first term everywhere. We had the greatest economy ever, stock market up 88%, the biggest rise ever, all of that stuff. But the second term is going to be even better. We have over $10 trillion going to be invested in our country. And this little tour didn't hurt, I will tell you, between the 3 great places. I recently announced that I'll approve an unprecedented $1 trillion, as I told you. It's going to end up going higher investment in the U.S. Armed Forces, and that's a record as part of that effort. I signed an order to build the Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our country from missile attack. Is everybody okay with that? It was called the Iron Dome, but I changed it to the Golden Dome. I thought it was a little more beautiful, maybe a little more modern or something. But we're going to have it, and it's amazing, actually, what they do. It's going to cost many billions of dollars, all made in the USA. I want it all made in the USA. The days of making our parts all over the world because we have wonderful partners. No, it's America first now. America first. We're going to make it all in the USA. And we're going to, by the way, it's America first, but we're going to take care of other countries. We're going to have plenty left over because we're doing things now. 6 months ago, our country was laughed at. Now our country is respected again at a level that it hasn't seen in a long, long time. And we're going to keep it that way. And our Air Force will soon have the world's first and only 6th-generation fighter jet, the F-47. Why did they name it 47? Does anybody know? I don't know. That was a nice thing. But it's quite the plane. They say there's never been anything done. But we're also looking at an increased version of the F-35. I think we're going to call it the F-55, which will be a double-engine plane. I like 2 engines on a plane. I'm sorry if I say that. But does that make sense to anybody? Does anybody agree, General? Do you agree with that? I like it. Thank you. So many of you, sir, this engine is infallible. No engine is infallible. I like 2 engines on a plane. Should have been made with 2 engines. If I were here, you would have had 2 engines, and you would have had a lot of other victories, by the way. But we're going to do, when you think of it, Russia, Ukraine would have never started. October 7th, Israel would have never happened because Iran, as you know, was broke. They were unable to fund Hamas or anything else. It wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have had the disaster of Afghanistan, the leaving. We were getting out, but we were getting out with dignity and strength. We were going to keep Bagram Air Base. We weren't going to give that up because it's 1 hour away from China. 1 hour. You know who occupies it now? China. The damage that administration did to this country is legendary, allowing 21 million people through an open border where anybody could walk into the United States of America is something that will never be forgiven. Grossly incompetent and evil, bad people too, bad people. But the real strength of our military doesn't come from its fighter jets. It really comes from our people. That's you. It comes from our people. You're unbelievable people. The aptitude and all of the things you have to do what you do. I look at some of those engines, and I'm a pretty smart cookie. I would tell you I'm real smart. And I look at you, and you take those engines apart and put them back together, blindfolded, and fix them up. It's amazing what you're able to do. And then to fly them, just incredible. You're incredible. You're a very special group of people. And that's why in my 2026 budget includes across the board. Maybe you don't want it. Look, for the good of the country, you don't have to take it. Pay raises for each and every one of you, substantial pay raises, but you don't have to take it. You don't have to take it. You can go to your commanding officer, say, sir, I'd rather not take that pay. I love my country, sir. I refuse to take it. Anybody here, raise your hand, please, if you refuse to take it. Let's see here. All right. Well, at least we have smart people. That's good. So you do your duty for us, and as Commander-in-Chief, I will always do and fulfill my duty to you. That's what I'm doing. Under the Trump administration, we're liberating everything in our armed forces from really radical social experiments carried out under the previous administration and beyond that, and actually beyond that, and restoring the strong and fierce spirit of the American warrior and the American fighter. On day one, I signed an executive order stopping our service members from being forced to endure endless training sessions on political correctness. We don't care if you're politically correct. And I directed the reinstatement of all patriots expelled from our military by the COVID vaccine mandate, which should have never happened. They're being returned at their former rank with full back pay. Very important. After years of not making our enrollment targets, to me, this is the biggest thing. Our military suddenly has the best recruiting numbers that perhaps they've ever had, but certainly in 30 years. Think of that. You go back 6 months ago, we couldn't get people to join the military. Nobody wanted your job. Now everybody wants your job. So we went from having the worst numbers we've ever had in terms of recruitment. That included police officers also, firefighters, but police officers. But in the military, think of that. You couldn't get people to join the military, and now we're brimming over. We have the highest numbers we probably, minimum 30 years, but probably have ever had, because there's such an incredible spirit now in our country. We have a whole new spirit, and it began on a date, November 5th. That was Election Day. Under the Trump administration, America is back, and America's military is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Since my inauguration, service members stationed throughout this region have terminated 83 major terrorists operating across Iraq, Syria, and Somalia, including the #2 just recently global leader of ISIS. And I knocked out ISIS, as you know, in my term. They said it was going to take 4 years. I said, why 4 years? That's a long time. And then I met a General Raisin Kane. He's now the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right? And he was great. He said, we can do it in 3 weeks, sir. I said, well, I was told 4 years, General, by your television generals in Washington, D.C. And he didn't want to be disrespectful to them. He said, sir, I'm telling you, if you want, we can do it in 3 weeks. And that's what he did. He knocked out 100% of the ISIS caliphate in 3 weeks. Should I tell you a little long, boring story about that? Yes? Okay, some of you have heard it because it's sort of a cool story, but I was wondering why we couldn't defeat, ISIS. We have this great military, all these great jets that we have new all over the place, the best in the world, the fastest, the best. And I went out and I said to a certain general in Washington, D.C., a television general, not much of, there's a real general on television. You have the television guys and you have the real generals. And I said, General, how long will it take us? Because it doesn't make sense. We're spending a lot of money on defeating ISIS, and they don't have great equipment. They, in many cases, don't even have equipment. They're vicious, and they are good fighters. We always have to respect that. Sir, it'll take at least 5 years, sir. I said, 5 years? That's a long time. You mean we have jets, they have knives, and it's going to take 5 years? Yes, sir. I said, I don't really believe that. So I did something that I've never done before. I said, I want to go to Iraq. and I want to meet with the people in Iraq because maybe they're different, but I couldn't understand how a large and powerful terror group could last so long. And so I scheduled a flight, meaning I left at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was pitch black. We left very, very under guard. We traveled through Washington, D.C. There was nobody around. Got to the hangar at about 3:15. Air Force One was waiting for us. Pilots, best-looking human beings I've ever seen. Even better looking than Tom Cruise, and he's a friend of mine, okay? These guys were central casting, and they could also fly. And we headed out about 3:30 in the morning, pitch black. We headed for Iraq, and nobody knew I was going, nobody. And we're flying, and we're starting to get close. And they come to see me, and they say, "Sir, we have a problem." "What?" "We're flying over enemy territory very soon, sir. Could we please turn off your lights?" I said, "My lights? We're flying in Air Force One. We just spent trillions of dollars on fighting, and you can't fly in with lights on?" "No, sir, it's very, very dangerous out there." So I said, "Oh, obviously turn them off." Then he comes in addition to the lights, we want to turn down the shades. So I said, "You mean not even shades?" "Okay, we turn down the shades." They said, "I want to go upstairs." This is 747, 2 levels, beautiful plane. Just ordered new ones, by the way, beautiful new ones. And Boeing just, by the way, did the biggest order in the history of Boeing. Just did with your beautiful territory right here. They ordered, I think, 160 planes. I think it's the largest order ever for aircraft. So I salute the people from Boeing, Kelly, and everybody, and General Electric. The engines are General Electric Super Prime, and I really think it's great. Congratulations. But I go up to see the pilots because I love sitting with the pilots. I admire their skill. I really do. Amazing, especially at a certain level. And when you fly Air Force One, supposedly you're the best pilot. So I hope that's true, by the way. But it seems to be. I have no complaints. We land, it's like always landing like glass. I've had pilots where when you land, it's not a pretty picture. In fact, you admire the plane so much for being able to keep apart. You know, I mean, sometimes I land with some of these guys. You're bouncing down the runway. I'm saying these planes are amazing that they don't crack up. But these pilots land, and the 747's a hard one to land, but they're great. So I go up, I see the pilots, I say, "Hi, Captain." The guy's a handsome guy. We've got a blonde flat top. I'd like to have a flat top like that. I don't know if the hair's good enough for that. I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to try it either. But perfect person, and I look at the right, he's perfect. Everybody was perfect. I like perfect human beings. I said, "How are we doing, Captain?" "We're doing fine, sir. We'll be there in a half hour, sir." I said, "They want the lights turned off, Captain." And they do, "Yes, sir, they're doing the right thing." "Oh, that's great, Captain. It's great." So now we're 15 more minutes, and all of a sudden, and most of you know this sound because that's what you do, but you have the computer voice, a beautiful voice where it says 1,900. They're talking about feet. So when you're in the big planes and sophisticated planes, the voice comes on, and I'm sitting back there watching them fly it beautifully, and I'm still not 100% happy with the statement that he agrees that the lights should be turned off. I would have preferred that he said, "No, there's no problem," but that's not what he said. So we're going through, and it goes 1,900, 800, 700. Talking about feet. Now, 700 is getting pretty close to the ground. I don't see a thing. There's no lights. There's no runway. And I've done this a lot. And I always see the runway in the distance. I have fairly good eyes. I'd say for my age, extremely good eyes. And I don't see a runway. 600, 500. "Captain, are we okay?" "Yes, sir. We'll be landing in just a few minutes, sir." 400. "Captain, are we okay? I don't see a runway up there, Captain." "Oh, we're fine, sir. No problem, sir." 300, 200. I'm saying, "Captain, you sure we're okay here?" And he said, "We're fine, sir." And then, boom, just lands that thing so beautifully. And I see, they had no light, they had no nothing. I don't know how the hell they do it, okay? All I know is we landed And for him, it was routine. And I'm trying to pretend I'm cool as a cucumber. You know, I'm your president. I'm supposed to be cool as a cucumber. And I'm like, you know, I'm like, I'm not happy. But after we land, I actually went to my people and I said, I want to ask you a question. I did a very brave thing just there. Is the president allowed to designate himself for the Congressional Medal of Honor? And they said, sir, honestly, that wouldn't be good. I said, okay. So anyway, we get it. I kid. You know, I have to say I kid because the fake news is back there, and they'll actually, no, it's true. And they'll say that the president wanted to give himself the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he was talked out of it by his staff. So anyway, so I get, the door opens, we have a platform, and I see down, I look down, and I see these are all specimens, just like you guys are all perfect people. And I'm seeing a couple of generals, a couple of staff sergeants, and drill sergeants, but everybody's like from a movie. And I walk out of the plane and meet the first gentleman. And I said, what's your name? He said, Kane, sir, my name is Kane. And I said, hello, Kane, what's your first name? Well, they call me Raisin. I said, wait a minute, Raisin, you mean like Raisin Kane? Yes, sir, that's what they call me. General, I love you. You're the guy I'm looking for, General. You're the guy I'm looking for. So is Raisin Kane. It's Daniel Kane, but Raisin Kane, that's what they call him. Then I met another general. I met a colonel. I met a sergeant. They said, sir, would you like to rest? I said, what do you mean rest? I've been resting on the plane. I don't want to rest. What do I have to rest for? He was thinking about Biden to come, okay? Biden would have rested the entire trip. He wouldn't. First of all, he wouldn't have made the trip. But if he landed, he would have been rested for about 5 days before he had the first meeting. I said, no, let's go have the meeting because I want to find out what's going on over here. We're spending a lot of money, and people are being killed. I want to find out why it's taken so long, so let's go right away. So we went to almost like just a very secure room that was in the form of a boardroom. Very professional, however. It was very highly sophisticated with the equipment. Best you can buy. We have the best you can buy all the time. But I went into the room and I said, General, so they tell me in Washington it would take 4 to 5 years to defeat ISIS. And I want to know from you, is that true? Or is that, no, sir. But it's not my place to say, sir, because they are the ones that call the shots. I said, well, if you disagreed, it's not the military way, sir. You have to listen to them. That's a chain of command. I said, oh, that's great. I'm not sure I like that system. But how long do you think it would take you if I gave you total authority to go in and knock the hell out of them? So it would take approximately 3 weeks. I say it again, General. I was told 5 years. Sir, it'll take 3 weeks and you'll have time left over. I said, you got to be kidding me. Where the hell have you been? And then I sort of was really in disbelief because I said, you know, I've been hearing for so long, and we've been fighting it. How long will we fight him? 18 years or something? And here's a guy telling me 3 weeks. So I said, General, how do you do it in 3 weeks? He says, well, sir, I don't like saying this because I do have people in Washington, but I'm going to say it. We have portable stations. We have portable runways. We have runways all over the place. We have other bases. And we're being forced to fight them from a very far away, distant base, which is right here. And by the time we get there, we have to come back because there's no fuel, and we're way too far away, sir. And they're over here, and he shows me a map, and we're over here, and we're all the way here, sir. I said, why didn't they use the other bases? Well, they didn't want to disturb the country where those bases were located. I said, we give those countries billions of dollars. We can disturb them a little bit. They wouldn't know what we're doing anyway. Are they going to know where the planes are going? Not really, sir. I said, so what would you do different? He said, well, sir, I'd start from here, and he went through a whole thing. Then I'd hit him from the left. I'd hit him from the right. I'd hit him from underneath. I'd hit him from the top. I'd hit him from every angle, sir. I'd hit him so hard and so fast they wouldn't know what the hell is happening. I said, and you think you can do that in 3 weeks? Yes, sir, and we're going to have time left over. And I said, let me think about it, General. I went back to Washington, and I spoke to a couple of people, and they said, I don't think so, sir. I think you're talking about years of fighting. And then I called the general and I said, so General, you still think you can do it in 3 weeks? A lot of people think you can't even come close to that, sir. We'll have time left over. I said, go to it, General, go to it. Thank you, sir. And he hit the hell out of him. He hit the hell out of him. And he calls me up, sir, we have a lot of these people, and if you want, I can finish it off right now, sir. I said, well, I don't know, that's a lot. It's a lot of people. Well, these people are not good people, sir. These are not good people. You'll feel better about it. Well, they're not good people, but they're people, aren't they? And he goes, I said, you know what? Why don't you buzz them for a little while, and maybe after a day or two of buzzing them, they'll surrender. They don't know about surrendering, sir. Well, maybe they'll raise the white flag. They don't have a white flag, sir. I said, well, give it a shot anyway. He said, all we're going to do is take a couple of bullet holes in our wings. You guys know about that, right? And I said, well, let's give it a shot. And he calls up and says, let me do the job, sir. I said, all right, do the job. And we defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate in just a very short little period of time, totally different from what I was told in Washington, D.C. by a bunch of frickin' losers, okay? Losers. And that's the beginning. And I took that general and made him the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as I told you. And he's going to be great, and he's highly respected by everybody, just a different kind of respect, too. It's a real respect. But we can do our job better than anybody in the world, but you have to have the leadership of the top at the top. And we're doing that. We're finding, we let a lot of 4-stars go. A lot of we had more 4-stars. We had, I think, 425 4-stars. In World War II, which, by the way, we won, in World War II, we had 187 generals. And we had like 425 generals now, without really a war. And so we made a lot of changes, and we have the best. We have the best. We worked hard to figure the best, the real ones. We want the real generals, not the fake generals, and not the political generals, too. So we have something that's special, but it can show you really what happened. We also just apprehended, as an example, the ISIS terrorist of the Al-Baghdad, the one that caused all of the problems in Afghanistan, caused unbelievable destruction. We lost 13 great soldiers. I got to know the parents and the families of those soldiers. But you know what they don't say is the ones who were so horribly wounded, which were many. And hundreds of people were killed from the other side. I always include that. That should have never happened. That whole mess should have never happened. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And we're not going to have things like that happen anymore. And again, we should have kept the air base. We should have kept it. We let it go. And we left, and it was a very embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That'll never happen again. There are a lot of people that said that Russia went into Ukraine. When they saw that, they said, wow, we didn't think that was possible, but it's not possible any longer, I can tell you. That's another one would have never happened if I were president. Russia would have never gone into Ukraine. All of those things, they would have never happened. But the Afghanistan withdrawal, not the fact that they withdrew, but the fact that the way they did it was so horrible and so embarrassing. So we brought this horrible person to justice, to American justice. We caught the person that set off that bomb. And all of this is possible because of the work that you do with partnerships that you forge. In this case, it was Pakistan. And by the way, I don't want to say I did, but I sure as hell helped settle the problem between Pakistan and India last week, which was getting more and more hostile. And all of a sudden, you'll start seeing missiles of a different type. And we got it settled. I hope I don't walk out of here and 2 days later find out that it's not settled, but I think it is settled. And we talked to them about trade. Let's do trade instead of do war. And Pakistan was very happy with that, and India was very happy with that. And I think they're on the way. You know, they have been fighting for about 1,000 years, in all fairness. So I said, I could settle that up. I can settle anything. Let me settle it up. Let's get them all together. How long have you been fighting? About 1,000 years. Oh, that's a lot. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about settling. That's a tough one. They've been fighting for a long time. But we got that settled. Everybody was very happy, I'll tell you. That looked like it was really going to be escalating out of control. But with us today is the first sergeant of the 379th Wing, Master Sergeant Patrick Elders. Patrick, wherever you may be. Where are you, Patrick? Handsome guy. Wow. I'm looking at him from here, and it says after having served 22 years, he's a lot. How long have you been in, Patrick? Wow, that's amazing. It looks like he's like 25 years old. I'm saying 22 years. They said, we must have this mixed up. We don't have it mixed up. I guess when you love what you do, you stay young, right? And he loves what he does, no doubt about it. But having served over 22 years in the Air Force, he's one of his, right now, this is his 6th deployment. But this time it's a little different because his stepson, Airman First Class Ashton Inman, is on his own first ever deployment nearby in Kuwait, right now in Kuwait, which is really incredible. Master Sergeant Elders is proud that 2 generations of his family are now serving the same mission in the same theater, protecting the same great American flag. So say hello to him. Thank you very much. Very nice. A lot of stories like that. A lot of stories like that, and I want to thank Airman First Class Inman also very much. That's a great story. That's a great story, and we have many of them. I guarantee in this room right now there are many such stories. There are several married couples serving side by side in uniform at this base, including Staff Sergeants Tyler and Paige Duck. Where is Tyler and Paige? For years, they grew their relationship while Paige was deployed in the UK and Tyler was halfway around the world at Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson in Alaska, conquering a 14-hour time difference. That's a lot of time difference. And now they're together at Al Udeid, and it's really great. So Staff Sergeants, congratulations. It's fantastic. The American people never forget that our service members and their families make incredible sacrifices each and every day so that all Americans can be safe and be free, and we love our amazing military families. Our military families are as good as you can get. The men and women here today are part of a noble tradition of service that has been passed down from one generation of Americans to the next, and your spirit and courage and sacrifice has always been there when we needed you the most. You're always there when we need you the most. With us today is Master Sergeant Michael Schlow, who happens to be from a small town in a place called Butler, Pennsylvania. Has anybody heard of Butler, Pennsylvania? Yeah. Michael is a member of the Air Force Reserve as well as Butler County Corrections Officer. And last July 13th, he attended the rally where an assassin tried to take my life. He gave it a shot. Not good. That was someday. As soon as the shots were fired, Michael raced to direct law enforcement toward the sniper's perch, then worked to evacuate the rest of the crowd in a very safe manner. But Master Sergeant Schlow would be the first to tell you who the real hero was that day. He personally knew and really liked veteran firefighter, also a veteran of the military, great veteran of the military, who laid down his life for his country, really laid down his life for his country. His whole life was about his country. Corey Comparator, and he's become somewhat of a legend, I will tell you. He took a hard shot. He took a hard shot guarding his family. Master Sergeant Schlow, your commitment represents the very best in America. Thank you for your incredible service that day and forever, because that day was a horrible day, but you acted with incredible bravery. We've got reports about what you did. It was really amazing, and I personally appreciated it. That was a It was a rough day. We don't want to have days like that. But Corey was an incredible guy, lost his life, guarding his wife and children. Every American warrior here today inherits a legacy of exceptional patriots who have defended our freedom for nearly 250 years. You carry on the glorious tradition of the heroes of Lexington and Concord, Gettysburg and Belleau Wood, Normandy and Midway. You embody the spirit of the soldiers who hoisted the flag over Fort McHenry and the Marines who planted the stars and stripes on the summit to Iwo Jima. That was a rough attack. You carry forward the mission of generations of Americans before you who marched through halls of gunfire, trekked over rugged mountains, stormed across scorching deserts, sailed through hostile waters, conquered unknown dangers, and poured out their blood and guts on battlefields all over the world. The military is incredible, and we won our independence. We preserved our union, protected our way of life, defeated fascism, crushed terrorism, liberated millions and millions of people from bondage, and brought communism to its knees. It's what we did. And now we're going to defend America from all enemies, overcome all obstacles and dangers, and as one nation, we're going to build a future of peace and prosperity for generations to come. Together we will stand strong, we will stand proud, we will live free, and we will fight, 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 and win, win, win. So, my trip is 4.5 days, but this is the one I was so looking forward because I'm with the people that I really love and respect. And we love and respect you. This is what you're doing, the service you do for your country. You keep us safe. There is no more important profession. And I was so proud to see those reports coming in just a few days ago saying that the enrollment is at the highest level ever, especially when I had to suffer running against a group of people that were very inappropriate, where they allowed that reputation of what you stood for and what you stand for to deteriorate to a point where we weren't able to recruit. So just remember this, you have a job now that everybody wants. Everybody wants to be doing what you're doing. It's a special job. And I'm so proud. When I saw those numbers come across the board that we set the record for enrollment in the military, and we took that from the exact opposite just 6 months before, I was very, very proud of that. We have a great country. We have a proud country. We have a country that's respected all over the world. And as I said before, a year ago we were laughed at, but nobody's laughing at our country anymore. We're the most respected country anywhere in the world. And thank you very much, and enjoy your lives, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is what a president sounds like. A coherent president. He's been standing for hours. He's had meetings with the Qatari prime minister. He was in Saudi Arabia. He's gotten the highest civilian medal of honor in the Middle East. Isn't that just wild? This is the greatest president America has ever seen. The most hardworking, for sure. All right, here we go.
I want to just thank you for being
working
with us, and I assume the press is ready. We have a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer. Unfortunately, he gets it for a shot at the ear. Someday you'll get it for something nice. You'll get it for something nice, Doug. Well, I want to just thank everybody. It's been a very special trip, and I can tell you that our country is hot. It's hot as a pistol. I don't think it's never been so hot. And if you go back 6 months, it was the exact opposite. We had a man that couldn't even stand up. He was so terrible. It's so terrible what he's done to our country, but we've turned it around so quickly. I did not expect to turn it around this quickly. I think we're the hottest country of the world right now, and 6 months ago they were laughing at the United States, but they don't laugh anymore. This has been an amazing trip, and as you know, I'm going to UAE in a little while. We're going to first watch an air show that will be spectacular from our friend, the Emir. He's done a great job, And I've met such great people. And as you know, that we're trying to give Yemen a chance, and we're going to give Syria a chance. With Yemen, they have a tremendous Houthi problem. I believe that's a problem for them. You know, you never really know. It's a tricky part of the world. But we were asked to stop firing at the Houthis. And that's something that they've never asked because they're tough and they're good fighters and all. But they're not going to be blowing ships out of the water anymore. So that's what we wanted. And we'll see how that works. But their emissaries were very, very strong on it. So that's a good thing for Yemen because they're trying to help themselves also. And we want them to get along with Saudi Arabia because that's been a big fight. And the other, of course, is Syria. We took out the sanctions, and I didn't even realize it's been many, many years that they've had sanctions. And as you know, there was a very big change at the top. And I thought that we have to give them a chance. They really have no chance with the sanctions. They were very biting. They were top of the line. Nobody could even deal with them. You couldn't make a phone call to Syria. So we did that, and I met the new leader of the country, and he's got a strong past. I'd be very nice. He's got a strong past, but I liked him a lot. I think he'll be a great representative, and we'll see. You're going to have a strong past to put that one around. You cannot be a weak person. If you're a weak person, we would just be wasting time. So he's a strong guy, and I thought he was good, and let's see what happens. But we're going to give him a fighting chance by taking off the sanctions. So we've actually been praised for that. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was very strong. Please do that. He wanted it done. President of Turkey wanted it done. President Erdogan called me, said, is there any way you could do that? Because if you don't do that, they don't have a chance. And so I did it, and it's actually been very popular. The Emir liked it a lot. It's been very, very popular. So let's see what happens. But it's my honor to have done it. And with that, we're surrounded by some of the greatest business people in the world. We just had a tremendous order of Boeing. This is Boeing, and this is General Electric. And General Electric, I hear, makes the best large airplane engine in the world by not even a contest. Maybe I'll have to change my engines one day in my plane because they're not General Electric. But, it's one of those things. But I hear you make the best engines in the world, Larry. Larry's somehow his people at General Electric. First of all, it's one of the greatest turnarounds that you'll ever see in a company because when you took it over, it was, I want to be respectful, General Electric was in trouble, to put it, I would say, right? To put it mildly. And now it's a hot company doing great, and it's, I would imagine the hottest thing is what's happened with the engine division because this engine is incredible. Would you like to say a couple of words, Larry, about that? Because he watches, when he sees Boeing, he's very excited because he supplies, I guess, for the most part, the engines. Would you like to say something?
Sure. Well, Mr. President, thank you. And it's an honor to be here. We're thrilled about the commitment that Qatar Airways has made to both Boeing and GE Aerospace with the largest wide-body order really in our company's history. Over 400 engines, both our GE NX, which powers the 787, the fastest-selling high-thrust engine in history, and our new 9X will power the 777X, which will be the largest commercial engine in the world.
Will that be the same engine other than size, or is it different?
It's a step forward and a generation forward as well.
So even beyond?
Yes.
The large one?
Very much so.
That's great.
And we think that really helps both Boeing and GE Aerospace continue to support not only our investment in domestic manufacturing, but in turn everything that we're doing to drive the $75 billion annual trade surplus that the aerospace industry enjoys in the U.S. today. So we're excited. I know Kelly and the Boeing team have been great partners, but Badr, our thanks to you for your trust and your commitment to both GE Aerospace and Boeing. We're gratified.
Yeah, thank you very much. Kelly, go ahead, please.
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for your support. This is a major order for us. All of these aircraft will be built in the United States, creating a significant number of jobs, and I know that's a key mission of yours, and this order will help us accomplish that. Partnership with GE has been great. They do power exclusively our engines, and they're doing a great job here, and we're very pleased to be selected by Qatar for this largest wide-body aircraft order in the history of Boeing. Major accomplishment for us, and thanks to the administration for your support.
That's the largest order you've ever had, right?
Yeah, for wide-body.
So one of the largest orders in history, but it almost has to be, if it's the largest order you've had, has to be pretty close to the largest order ever made, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you also, Boeing also got the jet fighter. We selected Boeing for the jet fighter, the state-of-the-art, highest level. It's an amazing looking plane. If it functions as well as it looks, I think we're going to have a big winner. But we're also looking at some additional jet fighters. We have some really good ones that we have. We're taking a look at, strong look from one of your competitors, I must say, and we're doing something very special. But it's a special country. We were losing the Middle East because the past administration didn't handle the relationship properly, didn't show the kind of respect that they deserve. And me, I have a lot of respect, and I have a lot of liking. I like the Crown Prince a lot. I've known him a long time in Saudi Arabia, and the Emir is fantastic. And we're going to another country in a little while, UAE, a fantastic man, fantastic leader. And they have great leadership talents in this part of the world, and that's why they're doing so well. And you probably read today the story about Iran has sort of agreed to the terms. They're not going to make, I call it in a friendly way, nuclear dust. We're not going to be making any nuclear dust in Iran. And we've been strong. I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country, frankly, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's the only thing. It's very simple. It's not like I have to give you 30 pages worth of details. There's only one sentence. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And I think we're getting close to maybe doing a deal without having to do this. There's two steps. There's a very, very nice step, and there's a violent step. The violence like people haven't seen before. And I hope we're not going to have to do this. I don't want to do the second step. Some people do. Many people do. I don't want to do that step. So we'll see what happens. But we're in very serious negotiations with Iran for long-term peace. And if we do that, it'll be fantastic. And for this country in particular, because you're right next door, you're a stone's throw away, not even, right? You're a foot away. You can walk right into Iran. Other countries are much further away, so probably it's not quite the same level of danger. But we are going to protect this country. It's a very special place with a special royal family, and the head of the royal family is two heads of the royal family, really, if you think. Great people, and they're going to be protected by the United States of America. And I think we're not going to have to do it because I believe very strongly in peace through strength. Now, we just gave out in the budget a $1 trillion budget, which is the biggest we've ever done. $1 trillion, never came close to a number like that. We'd be at 800. It would be at 800 billion. Would be at maybe 900, 910. We never got anywhere close to $1 trillion, but we're doing it. Hopefully, we will not have to use these weapons. We make the greatest weapons in the world. We make the greatest fighter jets. We make the greatest, I guess Larry would know better than anybody, but we make the greatest planes in the world, the greatest missiles and defense systems. The Patriot system is the best, acknowledged to be. I mean, this isn't from me. And we have a lot of it now. It's under order. And we're coming up with new systems, and we're coming up with a new system of drones. Because drones are really, if you look at the war that's going on, it's horrible, but we are watching it very closely, and drones really seem to be taking over that war. And so I hope you're going to come up with some nice, inexpensive engine for a drone so that we don't have to spend so much. I asked one of the companies, I said, I want a lot of drones. And, you know, in the case of Iran, they make a good drone. And they make them for $35,000, $40,000. So I said to this company, I want to see it. They came in 2 weeks later with a drone that cost $41 million. I said, that's not what I'm talking about, $41 million. I'm talking about something for $35,000, $40,000 where you send thousands of them up And that's a great way, and they're very good too, and fast and deadly. Horrible, actually. When you look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, the drone is killing tremendous numbers of people. You hide behind a tree and the drone comes down and it circles you with fire. You don't have a chance. The tree comes down also, by the way. It's so intense. I mean, you see these trees being knocked down like they're being sawed down by a top-of-the-line timberman, like you know who? Sean Duffy. Do you know that Sean Duffy, the head of the Transportation Department, who's working right now on the airports and getting a system because Biden didn't do a thing for 4 years, and Pete Buttigieg was the head, and he goes bicycling to work. He takes a bicycle to work. Can you believe he's running the biggest air system in the world, and he takes a bicycle to work? And they say he's going to run for president. I don't see it. Who knows, right? But I don't see it. But when I look at what they've done, is so horrible what they've done. And the work they did do, they wasted billions of dollars. They're trying to hook up air systems to copper, and they tried to hook up copper to glass, and the glass doesn't work with the copper. And they had 30,000 different contractors doing 30,000 jobs. And when they put it all together, they spent billions of dollars. It didn't even come close to working. And we're going to be giving out a brand new system. It's very important. We'll have the best system, and we think we know who that system is. But we have a lot of bidding. But we want one check. We want a unified system. We don't want to have 5,000 contractors in all different places. Some digging ditches and some not doing ditches because they want to go by satellite. Satellite seems to be the way to go. But so we're going to be giving that out pretty soon. But what people don't know about Sean, because I mentioned lumberjacks, that Sean. You probably didn't know this. That I'm not talking about this Sean. This Sean, no, not this is not. This is a different Sean. Sean Duffy, the head of transportation. He's a great Sean, though, I have to tell you. But Sean Duffy was the world champion for 5 years, climbing trees and down, up and down, world champion. So that's what you call a serious lumberjack, and he's doing a fantastic job too. A really respected guy and a terrific guy. And I mentioned the champion because. When somebody's a champion, he's the world champion for a long time. He came down, when you come down those trees, coming down at a rapid, he said that started getting you back. You will often break your back. You miss a shot and you're coming down a lot faster than the human body was meant to come down. But he's doing a fantastic job at transportation. But this has been a very historic trip. I watched some of the people talking about it, and even what I would perceive as enemies of ours, people that are not fair from the press, are saying it's been amazing. We've raised trillions of dollars in investments. There's never been anything like it. And just to finish, we have a country that now has, I think, Howard, we can say that at least $10 trillion of investment and potential investment. And if the past administration did $500 billion, it was like a lot. But we did it in 2 months because it's actually a little more than 3 months. But I always say the first month I had to get a little bit acclimated. So I didn't really do this the first. But when we started, so we've really been doing it, Susie, right, for 2 months. So in 2 months, we're going to have over $10 trillion. Nobody's ever come close. No country's ever come close to that. No country. And I want to thank the Emir because he put up a lot in terms of investment. It could amount to 2 million, 3 million, maybe even 4 million jobs in the United States. And more importantly, it's really important stuff. It's tremendous refining capabilities. It's capabilities for very high-end. AI is a big subject, and it's a big subject over here, too. I always say, what are you investing in? It seems one thing everybody seems to have in common is AI. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad. Maybe you shouldn't do it because too many people are doing it, or maybe you should follow the crowd, fellas, okay? So you're going to figure it out. We have a man who's here who has been unbelievable, Scott Bessent, who's our Secretary of the Treasury, and who's so respected when he speaks on television. It's like everyone just says, oh, okay. I had somebody the other day said, well, Scott Bessent said. I said, well, that's pretty good, Scott. You know? So I'm a believer. I'm a believer. But when he speaks, the markets really listen. And the big thing is that we have, to me, the most important thing of all is that, forget about the recent stock market being so good. Much more importantly, we have hundreds of different big companies pouring into America now, creating jobs like we've never seen before. Now, the bad news, it takes a little while for that to, when you build your factory and it takes a year and a half, 2 years, and they're going to build them very fast, and they don't need financing. That's the nice part. They don't need any financing. They have plenty of it. But they're building factories at levels we've never seen anything like it. And these are, 10 billion, 12 billion, 50 billion. I said, how do you spend 50 billion on a factory? We have the chip companies coming in from Taiwan. We have Jensen, as you know, coming in with 600 billion. We have actually the biggest company of them all. You know all about it. Coming in. That was a big, Mr. Wei. I said, Mr. Wei, you're a smart man, aren't you? I never met him. I said, because I understand you control 99% of the chips. Oh, yes, I do. I said, that's pretty good. I said, is there any way of breaking that grip? They said it would take you many years. So I said, you know what? If you can't beat him, you join him. But he's going to be building the biggest factory anywhere in the world in Arizona and spending over $200 billion. And we have Apple, as you know, is coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India. We're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high, to a point where they have actually told us, I assume you too, Scott, you were working on that also, that there will be no tariff, right? Would you say that's a difference? They're the highest, and now they're saying no tariff. But I said to Tim, Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India. India can take care of themselves. They're doing very well. We want you to build here, and they're going to be upping their production in the United States. Apple. So Apple's already in for $500 billion, but they're going to be upping their production. So it'll be great. So I really think we've gone from a laughingstock 6 months ago to the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's not just in business, that's in everything else, and it's psychologically hot too. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the media. The media, I have to say, has been very fair. They've been very fair. They've been terrific, actually. I was watching some of our, normally they would not say good things, but they're having a hard time saying bad because this is a record tour. There's never been a tour that will raise, it could be a total of $3.5–4 trillion. This, just in this 4 or 5 days, and it's from great people. And our relationship now is very strong with Saudi Arabia. Nobody's going to be bothering that relationship. Nobody would be able to break that relationship because of my relationship with the Crown Prince and the family. The relationship is really strong, and when you talk about Qatar, the relationship is equal. I mean, it's just like nobody's going to break that relationship. We have never had a relationship with Qatar as strong as it is now. You know that better than anybody, and they're very happy. And we're going to protect you. We're going to protect you. That's the one thing you need, maybe, but I don't think you're going to need too much of that. And I said last night, it was a great meeting, great everything. They brought in Lee Greenwood to sing. It was a beautiful evening, and I appreciate it. But I said last night that Iran is very lucky to have the emir because he's actually fighting for them. He doesn't want us to do a vicious blow to Iran. He says, you can make a deal, you can make a deal. He's really fighting, and I really mean this. I think that Iran should say a big thank you to the emir, because the emir is fighting very much that we don't. And there are many people that want me to go the other route. They say, just knock it out, because nobody can beat us. We have the strongest military in the world by far. Not China, not Russia, not anybody. We have the best military equipment in the world, and we have the strongest military in the world. If you remember ISIS, General Raisin Kane, right? We knocked it out in 3 weeks. Remember they said it would take 4 years to knock out ISIS? We did it in 3 weeks. That's because you had the right leader. With a stupid person, you'll do it in 4 or 5 years. You won't even do it. You'll fight for 4 years and then you'll leave. Like we always do. You fight. We had a president that blew up half the Middle East and then he left. That was it. It was like spent $10 trillion on blowing up the Middle East and then he left. Just said, let's leave now. You were left with nothing. And we don't do that. We take care of our friends. And so you have a great ally in us, and there's nobody even close. In terms of military power, there's nobody close. And I'm not only talking about nuclear. I don't like to mention the word because the nuclear is so destructive that it brings you into a different category. But we're number one in nuclear. I rebuilt our military, by the way, in my first term. We had a really successful first term. Then the election was rigged, and I had to wait, and it became more historic. And I was able to watch and see. And the good news is although it's bad news in another way, but the good news is that Biden was so bad, worst president we've ever had by far. There was never a president like this. This man was grossly incompetent, and now that's been proven. But people were able to see how bad it is, and it gave me a mandate. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. We won the counties by 2,725 to 505. That's why the map is completely red. When you look at it, the map, it was an obliteration, this election. And we got 312 electoral votes. So it was just an obliteration. And that means mandate. And we have a mandate that nobody's had. They said the most consequential election, and this was a enemy paper, the most consequential election in 129 years. So it's been a tremendous trip. I've really liked it. This is going, we're going 20 hours a day. And people say, how do you do it? And I said, I do it because I like it. I like it. I like the people I'm dealing with. I said last night, I stood in a line for, it seemed like hours. I said hello to Larry. I said hello to Kelly. I said hello to your 250 competitors. I said hello to everybody. And that was a long sucker, I want to tell you. They say, how do you do it? I said, I do it because I like the man standing on my left. And I said it 2 nights before about the Crown Prince, but last night I had the Emir, and he's fantastic. And I said, it's really not hard. When you like the people, and when you are doing something, we have a term, MAGA, Make America Great Again, very simple term. And I remember Biden saying, we will not let MAGA take over this country. I said, no, you stupid person. It says, Make America Great Again. It's okay if it takes over the country. It's called Make America Great Again.
Here we go.
That's where we are right now. It's America. We'll put America first.
Legendary.
But because we're putting it first, we're doing so well, there's going to be plenty left over to help the world. And we can help the world psychologically. So we think we're going to do well with Russia, Ukraine. 5,000 soldiers are being killed every single week on average. 5,000. And they're not from here, and they're not from the USA. They're from Ukraine and Russia. So some people would say, why are you bothering? Because these are 5,000 young people. Well, they're getting older because they've gone through so many that they are actually getting older. But these are 5,000 people that leave their home, wave goodbye to their parents. Their parents are so proud of them, their sisters, their brothers, and that's the last they ever see them. They're wiped out. And if you would see the satellite pictures, I get satellite pictures of that battlefield, and I want to tell you, I've never seen anything like that. I wish I never saw it. You have heads and arms and legs strewn all over the field. And you just take a look at that. And, when you think 5,000 a week on average, and that's actually a low number. So we're going to see if we can end that. I was thinking about going, but it's very tough because of what we're doing today and tomorrow. But, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate. But we have people right now negotiating, and I think that I just hope that Russia and Ukraine are able to do something because it has to stop. Not only the money, we spent $350 billion there. Just handed. Nobody even knows where the money, they just send him a check. There's no accounting, there's no one, just give him money. Every time he came, I have to hand it to him. I think he's the greatest salesman maybe in history. Every time he came to the United States, he'd walk away with $100 billion, you know. That's a good salesman, right? Even by your standards. This is a big standard right here. But that's a pretty good set. No, he'd walk in, leave with $100 billion. Last time he didn't do as well. He only got $60 billion. And it was so easy. It was like taking candy from a baby. That was the last administration. This administration has been a little bit tougher. But would like to see it end, and I think we're going to have a chance at doing it. And would like to see if we could solve the Iran problem in an intelligent way as opposed to a brutal way. There's only two, intelligent and brutal. Those are the two alternatives. So I want to thank everybody for being here very much, and we're going to take some questions, and perhaps now we'll ask the press to leave, and we're going to see you at the airfield. We're going to have a display of American equipment. Okay, yeah. Jennifer, go ahead.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Yes, with that being said, we will be back for sure. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell. We're streaming right now on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. The same name, Genesis Madhouse. You know what time it is. All right. This is what I voted for. A man who actually does his job, who is not on the bitch. Okay, he's not on the bitch. His wife is not directing him on where to go, what to say, or speaking for him. Okay, this man stood for hours, shaking hands, making deals. Regardless of how you feel about this guy, regardless, he is absolutely effective. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do during the election. Okay, because we streamed it, baby. We streamed every campaign he did. So everything he's doing right now, he said he was going to do it. Now, with that being said, you guys are the best. Shout out to Zyra's Garden, Mr. Buski. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to everybody who tuned in. Shout out to our moderators, members. You guys are the best, man. And everybody, the trolls, the liberals, conservatives, whatever you are, thank you for tuning in. This is a free speech platform. Whatever you say it. It is free speech, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe in Almighty God, okay? God is the greatest. Also, fathers, take care of your kids. God bless you. Thank you to the veterans. Thank you to the military personnel. God bless you one more time. God bless the United States. Let's go. Genesis signing out.